Excuse me, I was taking a drink of water there. Mike Naso here from YouTube's video update page on the tropics. Tropical storm Hermine getting better organized in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. We are going to take a look at Hermine and only Hermine for this update. We still do have Madeline and Lester in the Central Pacific, although that looks better for Hawaii, as well as Hurricane Gaston out in the Atlantic, now down to a Category 1, still threatening the Azores and still spinning about with a big ol' eye. But we're going to get right to Hermine since that is our biggest concern. Here is the latest as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time. It was at 26.4 north, 86.6 west. Winds were 60, gusting to 70. Now, some flight level winds have been recorded close to hurricane strength or over hurricane strength, but that's at flight level. Once that mixes down to the surface, Hermine will become a hurricane. It's moving faster now, north-northeast at about 11 or 12 miles an hour. The pressure, the lowest we have seen, at 996 millibars, and you can see the track here looks a little broader than it really is. Somewhere Apalachicola, the Big Bend area of Florida, right in this general vicinity, and we should see a landfall there as a hurricane within 24 hours or so, a minimal hurricane, probably not anything above Category 1, and then weakening. Now, the track is a little more uncertain as it goes on because there is a front moving down. That's kind of replacing that ridging that kept the system moving west for all of that time into the Gulf of Mexico, and that's what's helping to take Hermine and push her on off to the northeast. However, she might stall here come Sunday and Monday while she's either over the eastern U.S. or offshore. That could be a problem. That could be a big problem for heavy rainfall. And that's why if you're in areas of like Long Island or the New Jersey coastline or up near Cape Cod, keep an eye on Hermine because this could be a feature for you come Monday. By the way, Labor Day weekend, sorry, you guys are rained out all along the East Coast. There's no two ways about it. Whether this stayed weak or got strong, it's going to be a rainy one across the eastern seaboard. And a little bit cooler as that front moves through, by the way. Certainly not the heat we saw earlier this summer. I did want to mention the watches and warnings that we have going on. We have a hurricane warning from the Suwannee River all the way over to Mexico Beach in Florida, a hurricane watch from Anclote River to Suwannee River and west of Mexico Beach to Destin, and that's for obvious reasons. It is expected to become a hurricane in the next 24 hours. We also have those tropical storm watches and warnings, including now on the eastern seaboard, Surf City areas of the Carolinas. This is going to be a feature for you whether or not it stays over land. Remember, if it's a 75 mile an hour hurricane, it could still be a moderate tropical storm over a couple of states, which could cause wind damage, heavy rainfall, and potential for flooding, and of course the severe weather and tornado threat that will come with that as well. Now, the computer models in the longer range are showing the potential for a stall, but in the short term, you can see they're right there towards the Big Bend area of Florida and the Panhandle. Now, here's Hermine on the satellite imagery, looking more bark than bite at this time. The center of circulation is actually located right in this area here, so it's very lopsided. It reminds me a lot of Hurricane Earl. Not that Hurricane Earl from earlier this year, and not the Hurricane Earl that was a Category 4 in the Atlantic 6 years ago. I'm talking about Hurricane Earl from 1998. Some of you might not be old enough to remember that. Earl was a very atypical Category 2 hurricane. It developed in the Gulf of Mexico and it hit the Florida Panhandle, but it was very lopsided, and everything and all the bad weather was on the right side. We also saw Hurricane Gordon in 2000, which was kind of similar, came ashore in the Big Bend area as a tropical storm. But you can see all of these heavy thunderstorms blowing up on the right-hand side, almost completely flat on the western side. That's great news. That means that it's still getting sheared. The conditions are not favorable for significant strengthening. So if it bursts up to a Category 1 hurricane, that should probably be the most it can achieve. Again, it would be very bad if this was in a much more favorable area for development. We'd be talking about a much, much stronger storm. Now I'm going to switch over to the water vapor view to show you what's going on here with the setup. You can see the trough moving down through the middle of the country, and that is helping to push out Hermine, and again, I mentioned the western side here. Look at how flat this is. I mean, I could draw a line right there. This thing is not fanning out on its northwest side. If it was, it would be in a much better environment for strengthening. You can see, though, the heavy rain and the moisture all over Florida and the eastern Gulf of Mexico. That's going to continue to pump that rainfall, and we're going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to deal with it in the state of Florida, especially. That's probably the biggest threat with this system, along with the potential for storm surge. If you look at the latest rainfall, there you go, you can see you're predicting up to 10 inches from the National Weather Service, but in areas where heavy thunderstorms hit, you could be talking about a lot more than that. So this is going to be the big threat as we move on in the next 24, 48, 72 hours. As the system slides on off towards the northeast, we're going to be dealing with heavy, heavy rain, especially in the Florida Panhandle and the Big Bend, and then in the Carolinas as it moves on up the East Coast. That's going to be of concern. Now, of course, the other thing of concern in the Big Bend area is always storm surge. Even with a weaker hurricane, this area is very susceptible to high storm surges. Now, if the center were to come ashore, say, just to the east of Panama City, around Apalachicola, you're going to have an onshore flow here moving in towards the Big Bend. All of these areas here, these little bays, these little rivers and streams, this is very, very susceptible to high water rises. So you want to be very careful if you live in Ocala or Gainesville or Valdosta. We're going to be dealing with heavy rain and the potential for flooding. So if you're living in these areas, don't be worried that you're going to get the eye wall of a Category 3 hurricane or anything like that. That's not the concern. The concern is a very dangerous water rise with a landfalling hurricane of any strength in the Big Bend area. And that's why if you're on these barrier islands out here, or if you live in areas, say, outside of Ocala near Homosassa Springs, you're susceptible to an onshore flow which could cause dangerous storm surge. So it's something to be concerned about. It really is. So we're going to keep watching that as the hurricane, or what is expected to be a hurricane, will make its landfall there, and heavy rain as well. Now there's Earl, September 2nd, 1998. It's September 1st, 2016. I'm getting old, but when I was a kid, that was a hurricane that I tracked, and you can see it looked very, very similar to Hermine. A lot of heavy thunderstorms on the eastern side, the center displaced on off to the west. Now, Earl reached 100 miles per hour, and then it weakened as it came ashore. In fact, it might have even come ashore as a tropical storm, if I recall, but it was nonetheless a heavy, heavy rainmaker and also had tornadoes. So that's the type of threat we're going to be dealing with our tropical storm Hermine. Again, it is expected to become a hurricane, and we'll continue to watch it here. Certainly, it is bubbling. It is getting better organized. It is a moderate to strong tropical storm, but the main threats are heavy rainfall and the potential for flooding and dangerous storm surge potential, especially in the Big Bend of Florida. I'm Mike Naso. I'll talk to you guys later.